The London Transport Museum here, showcasing the first bus, the omnibus in London. 1829, of course, long before mechanisation. Horse drawn horse. Nice interior there. See the old Times newspaper from 1836. You might notice it's all text, it's all print, no photographs. Another early way. We're transporting somebody around. There we are. Up to their own old chair, lifted from each end. Short journeys. There we are. Chair to anywhere. This is the London Transport Museum here. London in 1800. Well, with a visit here at Covent Garden. Got the horse bus driver there and the challenges and tribulations of the day. Horses, of course. Still using horses in 1900 because mechanisation wasn't quite up to the standards required. All the information here as well throughout the museum. Things continue this way, we'd have to double deck the entire city. Victorian commentator of 1846. Information here. Great Waterloo there. In 1901, London's population reaches 4.5 million. It's certainly doubled since then. Looking at the bridges in London here. There was only the London Bridge for centuries. By 1800, only two more bridges, Westminster, built in 1750, and Blackfriars, built in 1769, had been added, and here we are. Bridges in London, the essential commerce. Dorothy Wordsworth, after viewing London from the top of the stagecoach in 1802, from 1802, said the city, St Paul's, with the river and a multitude of little boats, made a most beautiful sight as we crossed Westminster Bridge. There we are. Pool of London, 1810. Panoramic view of London looks west up a busy river, Thames. London Bridge in the centre was the first crossing point encountered by incoming boats. Tall ships could not sail any further upriver. Here we are, the history of London and London Transport here. Information. As well as horses, boats for transport. There's also, in the early days, the infancy of the railways. There we are, early railway, taking the train. The world's first public railway was the Horse Drawn Omnibus line, which opened near London in 1803. 5 years later, Richard Trevithick demonstrated a steam locomotive on rails, but nobody would back his idea. He was a Cornishman. Steam railways eventually developed to transport coal, but when the Stockton and Darlington Railway opened in 1825, it also had around passenger trains. George Stephenson, the line's engineer, went on to build the Liverpool and Manchester Railway. This was the first intercity passenger line. It opened in 1830. That's right. So, of course, if it comes slightly later, I think the London Underground first saw passengers in about 1890 or so. There we are. Extended over the years. Steam engine is something like a very large barrel on four wheels. It's wonderful how such a small thing can drag so many carriages after it with such a weight. Diary of William Taylor, London footman in 1837. Pioneering railways here. Steam locomotion demonstration, Euston, 1808. You can see that's St Paul's Cathedral there, Wandsworth, Surrey Iron Railway 103, and Croydon there. There, Richard Trevithick, 1771 to 1833. There we are, worked in the United Kingdom and overseas. There, invented the first steam railway engine for the Putney Bridge mine in South Wales in 1804. His ideas were ahead of the time. He gained no financial support for his work and died in poverty at the Bull Inn in Dartford. Sadly, George and Robert Stevenson, there we are, 1781 to 1848, 1803 to 59, born and worked in the UK, pioneering railway engineers. Built his first locomotive in 1814, supervised the railway construction and design for the Stockton and Darlington and Liverpool and Manchester railways. George's son planned the London Birmingham Railway in the 1830s, the first main line into London. Many of his structures are still in use today, including the High Level Bridge Newcastle, 1849, and the Royal Border Bridge Berwick in Berwick, 1850. World's first public railway there were. Surrey Iron Railway opened in 1803 along the River Wandle between Croydon and Wandsworth, carried goods but no passengers. London Transport Museum. What's making the river stink? Say no more. The omnibus from 1829. All about the trial and tribulation of a driver here. Well, cast iron bully, there we are. Pretty tough, I think. Right up here as well. There we are. In the day, quite hunched up close together. Wasn't that popular. This is seen from probably about 1833 here. One of the passengers did comment. Should we say one of the well-heeled middle-class passengers wouldn't do happy. Just decent clerk, fagged in harmless, going home with the tea. There we are. 6 and 20 sweating citizens jammed, crammed and squeezed into each other like so many peas in a pod. There we are, not too happy. Cool. At least he was had a roof over his head for transport.
And even then, 3 grand stones are still getting some screw. No, it's true, see.
London Transport Museum here. What's this true here? That's the action there, probably. It says Alice there, sadly. Hit by another tanker, I believe. And there with the embankments, there we are. The Thames in central London was completely reshaped in the 1860s by the construction of the colossal Albert, Victoria and Chelsea embankments. These structures were built along nearly 3 miles of the stinking river foreshore by the Metropolitan Board of Works. The embankments housed the drains and pipes of a new sanitation system for London. They also held part of the new District Railway, and on top a wide new road was intended to relieve the congestion of the Strand there. And here's the bridges moved on with a lot more built by 1895. There we are. was bridge rebuilt, of course some were rebuilt over the years. 1887, Chelsea Bridge 1858, Grosvenor Railway Bridge 1860, Putney Bridge 1886 rebuilt there. Those others are there we are, but Bridge 1873, Wandsworth Bridge 1873, Battersea Bridge 1890, a little bit later there. Tower Bridge 1894, here in London. Right up to that. Quote from the Illustrated London News from 1891. Who is this? Basel get? 1819 to 1991. There was sanitation systems. There we are. Essential systems of sanitation. These are taken for granted. Of course, it was a big problem years ago, and sadly, still a lot of sewage concerning the river, of course, could cause cholera and whatever other disease of the day. So that was all changed with a lot of investment in sewers, etc. But this is all about transport and all the other history of the day: water, train, and bus transport, of course, and the essential horses of the day. Dominance of horse, there we are. Thousands of horses populated London, Victoria and London. Operating a bus or tram for a single day required at least 6 changes of horses, meaning 12 horses, 6 cars per vehicle there. By 1900, London's public transport relied on some 50,000 horses. Caring for them was not easy. Every day, the horses produced more than 1,000 tons of dung. Everything is there. There we are. 40 horses in this photograph. They were 1890. Close together they are on a very busy road there. Horses were hitched to cabs, carts, wagons and omnibuses. There we are. London Transport Museum. There we have the horse tram routes, 1875. Archway, Finsbury Park, Stamford Hill, Euston, Stratford, East India Dock, and right down round Greenwich, Blackheath, Brixton, Clapham, and in the centre, Victoria there. No tram from the West End. In central London, there were 1872 parliamentary vote there. Started much earlier than then. Buses, there we are. All the new information there. History of the day. And more about the horses, the all important horses here. Horses had to be stable, trained and cared for transport operations. They were the most expensive part of the business. Vets, blacksmiths and horse handlers were employed, and barges brought in huge quantities of feed, of horse feed from the surrounding countryside by river and canal. A working horse had a carefully mixed diet that included hay, oats, maize, corn and bran. It was very important to look after the horses properly. Without them, there were no services and no paying passengers. There we are. The all-important horse-drawn transport there, and maintaining the horses and the welfare of the horses of the day. There we are. Baker Street to Buckinghamshire, there we are. This is the Metropolitan Line, extended out 50 miles northwest of Baker Street. There we are. This one was converted to electric in 1921, but converted back to steam operation in 1939 for the longer journey, of course, to Cheshire. We're staying until the line was fully electrified in 1960. All the history coming red here. Until 1960. The only one preserved. Victoria was restored to its teak appearance in the 1920s. The television here.
Or in Wimbledon today, or 3 Ealings, or Upminster. That's the longest one. Takes nearly half a day to get there. But there's no cover outside. There's rain, there's snow. It's alright when we get out in the open, but there's a lot of tunnels we have to go through
10-hour days.
in the summer. Hardly breathe going through the tunnels, it's so hot. It's enough to boil you on the footplate.
The conditions of yesteryear. Expansion of London. And housing over the decades.